Hello and welcome. Dr. Dina here from Raw Food Education, and today I'm going to make one of my favorite green drinks, green juices here, that has been another staple during my spring cleansing program that involved a lot of juices here. And what I've got here is the star of the show, first of all, are these greens. And these happen to be tree collards that we are growing in our backyard. You can probably see some of those through the window on the right here out in the backyard. And this is about 2 bunches worth. We got about 12 of these leaves, and some of them are, really huge, like Dumbo ear leaves. If you were to get kale or Swiss chard or something like that in the store, you'd get about a bunch. So you don't have to use these particular leaves if you don't happen to be growing them in your backyard, but they're local, they're fresh, they're as local as you get. So these are the stars of the show. And before we were growing these greens in our backyard, I liked to use Swiss chard. Thought that was really awesome. Kale is really good too. Chard has sort of a smoother taste to it. So anyway, I'll put those there. Now, if you juice these up straight, boy, that'd be pretty nasty. It tastes like straight wheatgrass juice. I'm going to talk about that coming up. So along with that, I've got 2 cucumbers here. And what I did is I cut those in half and then cut them into fourths this way to make sure they'll fit through the chute. And I've got some carrot. I've got about 7 carrots here. And because these juices were staples, I had actually bought a whole 25-pound bag of carrots, but I'm just about at the tail end now, so I'm done with those. And we've got about 1.5 to 2 heads of celery. Now, in the watermelon celery juice video, where I used the Champion juicer to make the watermelon celery juice, the Champion lends itself better for watermelon than this twin gear machine does. I had to cut the celery up into small pieces. With the twin gear machine, though, celery goes in nice and easily and you don't have to cut it up. So in any case, like the other video, I'm going to alternate some greens with some cucumber and some softer stuff and just keep going through. We're going to fill this up, going to fill up the strainer, and probably this is going to fill up 2 or 3 times, and we're going to get that all strained out. And then, for the most exciting part, we're going to have a bunch of pulp left over, and I'm going to try to make the pulp as dry as possible by keeping this screw here turned in tight so everything really grinds up in there and there's some pressure and it squeezes it out. But you're not going to get everything out of any juicer. But then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my stainless steel manual hydraulic press, and we are going to put the leftover juice pulp in that, and we're going to press the heck out of it so we get everything out of there. And not only are you going to see that there's quite a bit more quantity that you get out, you'll have to do this for yourself or just take my word for it, but the quality of the juice is just dramatically improved. It's richer, it's creamier, there's more depth, so much more flavor. So anyway, I'm going to get going with the juicing and we're going to have some fun here. I'll start out with one of these greens. Twin gear juicer is really good. This is one of the early green power juicers. It almost juices itself. You get the stem in there, takes it in, makes it real easy. Then I'll do something soft with the cucumber next. Get a celery in here. Celery goes in pretty easily. And these carrots happen to be on the fat side, which is fine with me, but they don't really juice themselves in so much, so you gotta give that a push and crank it down here a little bit. We're starting to see some juice coming out. And although this isn't quite how it normally is, you don't normally have this thing so tight, but one of the gears, I broke one of the plastic pieces on there. So my situation is going to be a little bit different. So that takes a little bit of doing there to get that one down. So let's go with another cucumber here. And then let's go ahead and do another green. So basically I'm just going to keep alternating in this manner and until this thing gets filled up. Starting to have a difficult time getting everything through, so now I've loosened up the screw at the end here to have a little bit less pressure in there. Although again, mine's a little different than everyone else's because I broke a piece of the gear, but it still works, so no sense replacing it. Got to give that a little pressure with the carrots there. Celery almost juices itself there. Just a little pressure. Oh, these twin gear juicers sure make celery easy. I've gone through about half of the ingredients here and I've gotten up to about 3 cups. A quart is 4 cups. So I've got about 3 cups of juice here. And I'm going to go ahead and pour that through my strainer. I really like when green juices are nice and smooth without a bunch of pulp in there. I'm going to eat plenty of vegetables and plenty of fruit to get plenty of other fiber, but not such a fan of it in the juices. So in any case, going to put this back under and keep juicing. All right, so all done with the rest of the vegetables here, and we're at about 3.5 cups now in this second batch. So we got 3 for the first, 3.5 for the second, so we've got 6.5 cups worth. Go ahead and run this through the fine mesh strainer. And we've got quite a lot of pulp left over too. And next we're going to go ahead and see how much more we can get out of the pulp. That'll be the fun part. So now that I've finished juicing, what I did is I just traded places between the juicer and the press. What I've also done here, which I don't normally do, is I put all this pulp in a bowl so you can see about how much pulp is left over for about a little bit less than 2 quarts of juice. Now again, I had the screw at the end pretty tight to try to really, wring this stuff out. And it's fairly dry, but there's still a good amount of moisture in here, which means more juice left. And it's the really rich, good stuff close to the fiber. So what I'm going to do is we've got our setup over here. I'm going to put some of the leftover stuff from the strainer in through here because we can press that out also. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this 2-quart container up just so we can see how much we got out from juicing straight through the twin gear juicer. So a little bit less than 2 quarts because we said we got about, 6.5 cups or so. And I'm just going to set this over to the side here, move this thing out of the way. And now what we're going to do is I've got some nylon sprout bags here. In fact, these things are really old. I'm a big fan of reusing things as much as possible and giving them a long life. So these were from over 20 years ago when I worked at Hippocrates Health Institute. These have been used more than this one. So in any case, you run them through the wash every now and then and they get nice and clean. And this is going to go back to the days when I spent 5 or 6 hours a day running the Norwalk hydraulic press, but this one's manual. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this pulp, just a good handful, and I'm going to place it down here. And I'm just going to basically turn that into a square shape, try to get it as even as possible. And I'm just going to fold it over. And I'm going to put it in here in the stainless steel bottom. And then I'm going to try to do the next 2 in a pretty uniform size. So they'll all stack up on top of each other neatly and put pressure on each other evenly. And then I'm going to stack the number 2 here, give that a little bit of a press down. And then I'm going to take another handful. And I probably have used almost half of it. I'm going to try to get a little extra in here. That way I can just do 2 pressings instead of having any left over for the time after. So I'm going to press that down. Now I've got 3 of these left over, or 3 of these filled up now. And you can see that this thing here is a stainless steel plate on the bottom, and it's got a hole down there that leads into this spout. So whatever comes in, that's liquid in here, comes out through the drain things and goes down the drain things and comes out through the spout. So that's going to fit in there. We're going to take our original container, going to grab the crank it up instrument here. I'm going to set that so it's going to crank up. Use the other end right here, and we're just going to crank it up manually with the press, and we're going to see what happens. And I already know what's going to happen. It's going to start squeezing the juice. You can see it coming through out there, and there we go. It starts coming out. So we're getting more juice out, and I like to give this a good lean, get some good leverage there. And then you find that as it presses down more, then you can lean on it a little more in a few seconds. So typically what I do is I get that good and solid, and then while it's pressing out, I'll clean up the other parts of the juicer, because might as well do something efficient with your time in between. and then I'll come back again and lean on it and really get it out. So because we're here being recorded, I'm just going to go ahead and let this be as it is. Yeah, we could probably get a few more drips out of there, but I think that's good enough for now. So we'll lose a few drips, but then you let it down this way. And then what you have basically left over is you have the highest fiber veggie patties that are possible to make in the world, because they're essentially just fiber left over. And there's not much moisture in that, so that's a high fiber veggie patty. I'm going to just set that over there, and I'm going to go ahead and open this up. I used to do hundreds of these a day, making the Hippocrates green juice. And we're going to get this. And I have a funny story to tell you about this. When I first moved to California, shortly after I graduated from chiropractic school and was doing my internship at the fasting center in this area, I went to a raw food support group or get-together, potluck, whatever it was, and I met John Kohler for the first time. This was quite a bit before we became friends, and he said he was selling one of these presses, and I was all excited, and I bought the press, and so I used to make green juices when I was an intern at the fasting center, and one day the landscaper guy came by into the kitchen to empty the compost that he did for the chefs there to help out. And he sees these things sitting in the compost bucket. They had a hole in the counter and the thing was under the counter. He sees it sitting on top of the compost. And he says to one of the chefs, "Hey, did you really want to throw away those pot holders? You got pot holders sticking on top of the compost." And we told him, "No, they're not pot holders. This is actually veggie fiber left over." So they look kind of like pot holders. So that was rather amusing. So I'm going to go through the same procedure here. I'm going to get those out of the way. I'm going to fill up, try to get about a third of this in this time so I can get all the rest in one more pressing. And that's about a cup and a half or so worth of pulp there. So fold that over. I'll just set it right here for now. And then now I'm going to try to get about half of what's left here. And that looks pretty good. That's about a cup's worth, a little bit less there, so I'm going to fold that over, stick it evenly on top. Third one, now get all the rest, and we have some of the stuff left over from the strainer, and we're going to put that on in. And there's less in there, so I'm going to try to even it out to make it as wide as the other ones, but it'll be thinner, because we want it to press down on everything below, to press everything out. So there we go. Going to put those in there. And once again, crank it up and squeeze it on out. And there we go. It's a gusher. And give it an extra little squeeze here. I'm leaning my body weight down on it. Sometimes I use a towel in between to not put too much pressure on my thenar pad there in the base of my hand. And there we go. And again, I could get a little more out. It's still dripping, but for the purposes of this, we'll go ahead and quit there. What we can see is we've got about another cup. So that's pretty cool. So I don't know who's good at doing math in their head, but if it was 1/10, if this was 10 cups to begin with and we got one more cup, that would be 10% more. If it was 5 cups to begin with and we got one more cup, that'd be 20% more. We're kind of right in the middle. So we got about 15% more juice by pressing this out. But here's the more important part. If I taste some of this stuff, oh my God, that is just, it's so good. The greens are in there and it's good and hearty and green, but you've got the cucumber to dilute out the greens a little bit. You've got the carrot for a little bit of sweetness, but there's a lot more green than there is sweet in here. And you've got the celery for some good body. It's just such a good mix. By the way, if you don't have deep greens, let's say you had a bunch of lettuce, you could use lettuce, celery, carrot, because the lettuce is roughly like a deep green and cucumber put together. So in any case, that is exceptionally good. I'd give it maybe a B+, partially because I know what's coming. Now I'm going to add this stuff to it. And that is even maybe hard to see on the camera. Deeper green, richer. We're up to our full 2 quarts. And I take a sip out of this. Oh my God. So we got about 15% more quantity or more yield here. But I'm going to say we improved the quality of the juice about 25 or so percent. It's richer, there's more depth. It just, everything is just, everything's just better and deeper and more involved and just more going on there, and it's more amazing. So in any case, there we have it. 2 quarts of juice. I'll drink that throughout the rest of the afternoon. And that is just a lot of good nutrition going in, easy to digest, super good for me, and it tastes really good. I actually enjoy it. You know, back in my Hippocrates days, it used to be fun. I would ride my bike to work, it's about 7 miles or so, and then I'd jump in their ozonated pool. That was my shower in the morning. And then I'd go over to the greenhouse before work started, and I'd get a whole tray of wheatgrass, you know, a whole big tray of it, cut that up. Some friends and I who worked at Hippocrates had painted cement paint on the cement floor of the juicing house, and then we put we painted the Hippocrates symbol in there, the wheatgrass. It was really cool. So our ritual is we'd juice up a whole tray of wheatgrass. So it'd make about 6 ounces, and we'd stand in the center of the symbol. That was our symbolic place. And we'd be like, okay, here we go. And we'd just crank down 6 ounces. And I'd shake. All my hair would stand straight up, and man, it was intense, but you felt good. After a while, though, I got to think, you know, here I am, I know what's in there is good for me, but at the same time, I'm telling my body, okay, this is going to be intense. Oh man, this is going to be kind of nasty. And I'm thinking, all right, I'm telling my body something disgusting is going in, and taste-wise, something disgusting was going in. And so there was kind of a trade-off there. With this stuff, there is no trade-off. This stuff is ultra green, and in those 12 big huge leaves of tree collards right from my backyard, there is way more chlorophyll and other good stuff in there. Crude chlorophyll, phytonutrients, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, way more than in 6 ounces of wheatgrass that really disgusted me. Plus all the good stuff from the carrot, the cucumber, and the celery, and I actually enjoy it. So if there's one take-home message here, among many, but one in particular, you have to enjoy what you're doing, otherwise you're not going to keep it up long term. Now my wife, Dr. Dina, she really likes wheatgrass juice, and so more power to her if she likes it. But if you don't, there's all sorts of other greens to make, and I would suggest trying out this basic formula. And if you don't want to make quite this much all at once, pick one head of something green, like a basic head you get in the store. Kale is great. You know, whether it's Dina or curly or Russian or whatever, all types of kale is great. Swiss chard has it's a bit smoother than kale is, and spinach and whatever else you like. So one bunch or one head of something, and then a cucumber or 2, 4 or 5 carrots, and about a head of celery. Really good mix. I hope you all enjoy it. I hope you have found this useful, and that stuff's good and green. A lot of goodness in there. Tastes delicious. So green up, everybody, and good luck.